Okay. Alrighty then. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Let's start with roll call.
Angela Haupt,
Here.
Dan Young, I'm not seeing in the room. Jenny Look,
Here.
thank you. Quinn Ty, not seeing in the room. Patrick Hanks,
Here.
thank you. Ron Perkowicz, not seen in the room. Ken Brulette,
Here for now.
here for now. I saw Ron on right at the beginning. Do you know if he's gonna pop back on or anything?
Yeah, no idea. Him and I don't talk. Besides, he was the home inspector that inspected my house when it was built, but I
All
don't
right.
know.
Do you know, are you gonna have to leave a little early then, Ken?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I'm in two meetings at the moment right now, so I'm trying to listen to this one while attending the other one. So
Okay. Well, right now we're by my count, we got 6 on the seats. So if you have to leave, we would still be able to conduct business. So just
okay,
raise your hand if you got to pop off.
got it.
Josh Mergens, not seen in the room. Barry Kurth let us know he wouldn't be able to attend today. Justin Carvalho, not seen in the room. Mariko Blessing,
Here.
thank you. Jonathan Jones, not seen in the room. Leah Summer, not seen in the room. Annie O'Rourke.
I'm here. I do need to duck off from 10 until 11.
Okay. All right, with that, we're sitting with a quorum. We've got 6 seats, or 6 of our 5 needed seats for quorum represented. So if we drop one person, we'll be sitting right at the threshold, and if both Ken and Annie are out at the same time, we'll be suffering quorum at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from the public who would like to be recognized? I don't think there's anybody. No.
Not a very robust list of folks
Yeah, I
attending
was
today.
gonna say, I don't know if there's anybody from the public. Okay, so on to I'm gonna need a motion to approve the agenda as shown.
So moved.
Second.
Right? Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no one. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, we don't have any minutes to approve, so we will start with the existing amendments follow-up topics, number 3.
Yep. So we have I was under the impression, or no, we got everybody we need here for this one. So we have the EV charging stuff worked on by Patrick and Quinn, and then we have also Appendix BB tiny houses and lofts and sleeping lofts proposed changes from Jen. And Jen's not available for our next Tuesday meeting, and so we made sure to bring this back today. And then Patrick, I don't think you're available next Tuesday either. So I guess we're trying to run through these proposals as a first read and maybe get some acceptance to include those in for future stuff. So I guess I'll pop open the EV charging one. Patrick, are you ready to discuss that one a bit?
Sure.
All right.
You sound so
And if
excited.
you like, I can let
Yeah, he does. Patrick, that was a lot of enthusiasm.
I'm ready. Let's go. Trying to.
And Patrick, if you want to share screen and drive, I can definitely stop my share and let you share if you want, or just let me know if you want me to drive around on this one.
I'll just direct you.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, Quinn and I met. Our goal was to keep basically the intent of the current state amendment, but add in the new model code language. And then we thought it would be good to include some other definitions and editorial changes to improve and clarify the code. And I looked to match a little bit to some of the EV charging code work that's been done on the IBC side, since they're bringing in definitions from the IECC, trying to match what the IBC, the BFRW committee's done. So if you want to scroll down a little bit, Dustin, please. So we came up with two different options for the tag to consider. The definitions are the same across both, so that's what's there. And I pulled that directly from the IBC, or what the BFRW committee's done. It should be pretty close to the IACC. There might be one or two little changes. I don't recall off the top of my head, but the intent is to keep it pretty similar. And then if you want to scroll down to 317.6, so I think we're switching to the new model code numbering. And if not, staff can always clean that up. Then we decided to change the title to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. I think that matches our state amendment in the IBC, since it's not just dealing with charging stations and systems, or just electrical vehicle charging. And so option number 1 is going to bring in the new model code language as an exception to and just mainly keep the existing amendment as is. Option 2 is trying to incorporate it to make a little bit clearer that if existing structures put in electric vehicle supply equipment, those are the wall mounted chargers, that those have to be done in accordance with NFPA 70 and the state electrical code, so on. Normally I don't like changing model code language too much, even if it's imperfect. I think sometimes it's better just to stay consistent with what builders know. But because this section in both the IBC and the IRC is so customized anyways, I felt comfortable making some changes. So if you scroll down a little bit, I noticed that I went and looked at the UL standards, and they both have to deal with EVSE. One deals specifically with DC fast charging, which I don't think we're super likely to ever have that covered under the IRC. It's pretty expensive. You see that more on commercial side or public charging stations. But so I just cleaned up the language to just one sentence to have EVSE shall be listed and labeled in accordance with the relevant standard. And I assume that building officials and electrical will know how to apply those. And then if you scroll down, so here's where we get into the meat of it. You can see that exception language in option 1, bringing in the new model code language. And then I think on option 2, it's if you go, or it was already up top, so this should just match the current code language and on the option 2, and then just adding in the definition for EVSE. If you scroll down to the bottom.
You want me to be on 317.6.2?
You can scroll all the way down to the bottom to show
Okay.
the.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're just changing the definition or the language to match the definition now. Any questions?
So I'll just throw it out there. The only thing that I would make sure we don't miss is the reference standards to the UL that we need to add into the reference standards. It's not in those two UL documents aren't in the 24 chapter 44. And then we just have to clarify the code section reference to the NFPA 70 back in that 45. So that should be part of the code change proposal too, is just adding in those two UL standards.
And
Thank you.
then you're saying for the UL, or no, sorry, for the NFPA 70, you want to reference the specific section of that document as well?
Yeah, that's how it's done in there now. I just
Okay.
right now it's sorry, I'm running two computers here. Yeah, it's referenced in 329.3, 330.6, that area. I just don't know what if the whole numbering thing. We just got to add that wherever we add it in there.
I think on the IBC side, we just reference RCW 1928 and NFPA 70. But if we need to go more specific, we can.
Yeah, the UL to me is probably needed more than anything else, because those ULs aren't even in the 24 IRC.
They should be, because that's the model code language.
That for the 24, that what's the number again? Is it, you said 2202?
2202 and 2594.
Yeah, we have 2200 is in here, and yeah, so it might be in the IBC, but it's not in the IRC.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm trying to navigate there just to double check.
But basically, you wanted to know like how we felt about option 1 or an option 2.
Yeah.
Which one do you prefer?
I think option 2 is a little bit clearer. That the model code language applies to all structures, and then the state amendment applies specifically to new dwelling units, saying that they have to have you know, the panel or whatever.
Well, I'm willing to make a motion if anybody for option 2, unless somebody else wants to continue discussing, so we can get going.
I'm trying to figure out, sorry. So it says if you go up for 317.6.1. Okay, so I'm trying to the provisions of this section. I guess what I'm wondering is, what is the purpose of 317.6.1 at all? There's nothing in that as a section on its own. Normally it would be like this, the provisions of this apply, and then there would be a subsection underneath of all of the, things that apply, like this applies to new construction or anything. It's basically saying 317, and I know you changed, or the base code added 317.6.2, but I'm just wondering what the purpose of that section at all is. Does that make sense?
I think the 0.62 comes from the current state amendment.
I mean the 6.1 though. It just says provisions of this section, and that's it. It's 6.1 is it. So it's basically saying the provisions of this section apply to itself, but there's nothing there. So that it doesn't give any direction on what's required. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm just saying that was there already. I don't know why it was there, but
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just kind of, it added the 317.6.2. That's the new base code language, right?
No, the new base code language is I made it 317.6.
The blue is you. But is the blue text you, or is that the base code language?
Well, the
option 2. Sorry, that's where I'm looking.
The blue text is all I wrote it so that it works as it would be I don't know, what is it? I think it's a mixed match. The blue text is adding in new language, the red text is removing language, but from the model code language, it's like it's showing both the changes to the model code and the state amendment. So it'd have to be changed a little bit as a code proposal to make it all changing. The model code would be new language.
Yeah, because in the base code, that text yeah. So in the base code, there is no 317.6.1.
What it's 309.6.1.
In the 24 code,
Oh, the model code.
37,
Yeah.
that language where it says where provided electric vehicles shall be installed is 317.6. So it's the highest in the section. So then everything underneath it basically, except that sorry, that's wrong. That's the language that says that it has to be per NFPA, blah, blah, blah. Never mind. So 317.6.1 though is completely state amendment.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just trying to answer your original question of what is the purpose of this section. Is this essentially saying when the electrical vehicle charging is required to be installed? So it's saying that you have to install them on all new dwelling units with these exceptions?
Right. But
it doesn't actually sort of say that, right?
Well, it says the provisions of this section shall apply to the construction of new dwelling units. My question is actually the numbering. Because it's not that it's that 317.6.1 is probably right. But then what we do underneath that, should that everything underneath, so everything after that, we're saying applies to new construction, correct? So I'm just thinking that the numbering needs to be 317.6.1.1 and then 0.2. So that they are actually under that section versus they're each individual. So that's all I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Right.
I think the numbering is off. Is all.
Yeah, so they have to be nested under the main section. Otherwise, they're standalone.
Exactly. Otherwise, that section where it just says that's all it applies to is this, but it's not giving any actual requirements underneath it. So I think it's just the numbering below. So instead of like in option 2 where you added and 317.6.2, I think it should just be that 317.6.2 should actually be 317.6.1.1. I mean, we're nesting quite a bit, but you see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
So instead of it would be, so it would kind of be option 2 without the blue text in there, without the and 317.6.2, because basically that's where you're by making the next section below the 317.6.2 instead of making it 0.1.1, then it's already nested and applies. Is that?
Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying there, Dustin?
I believe so. So I guess my first question is, are we asking me to make these changes as we're talking about them? So right now we want to change this one. We want to pull out this blue text right here. And then we want to renumber this to 0.1.1. Is that essentially what we're talking about?
That would be if the tag members want that. That's my suggestion right now. But again, there's still, I think you're discussing between options 1 and option 2 also.
For the changes that Ken suggested and then the ones that Angela suggested, if the tag wants that, because this needs to be turned into a proper code proposal now that you've sent out the template. So I can, to save you some time, I can convert this to a code proposal form and bring it back for final.
And to speak to Ken's comment on the UL standards, of course they move around after I get them in here, but the ULs that you have listed in here are part of the base 2024.
I guess that's weird because I don't see it on mine, but okay. I guess I'm going back to what you were saying, Angela. if you look at the charging section, which is 317.6 in the 24 code,
Yep.
and then we have our state amendment that says application.
Mhm.
What would it look like if 317.6 was our application and then we renumbered the 317.6 to a 317.6.1? So the application is the charging section, and then it says, hey, where provided, you got to do it per NFP 70.
So we could do that if we used option 1, I believe, of 317.6.1, because we need to incorporate existing construction. It still needs to be in there that if you're existing construction, you still have to build basically to the applicable standards and everything, which, in, common sense world makes sense. But if you don't put it in the code, then, things happen. So I think it's either one can work. I mean, it just depends on how we want to do it. If we want the charging to be where it's required, and then underneath how you do it, which would be normally how you would.
Well, except that they need to comply whether or not it's required.
Right, and that's where that's where in option 1, it has exception 2, which addresses existing dwelling units where provided. So you would have basically option 1, I think is what Ken is saying. Option 1 would be 317.6. So it would be the charging language that basically says this applies to new dwelling units. And then it says for existing dwelling units, you still have to meet this. But then everything after that would only apply to new construction. I mean, it would kind of clean up sort of a deep nesting situation, but I mean, either way could work.
I think one issue with the exception is it makes it seem like that doesn't apply to new dwelling units.
Well, but that's because underneath you would have 317 point, I think what he's saying is 317.6 or your 317.6 would actually be 317.6.1. So it would still be in there. It would just be flipped, and that way you're not nesting 3 deep. Is that what you're saying, Ken? Is that kind of where you're?
Yeah, I just think it clears it up if we, because again, we're taking our state amendment of how we want it applied in the state, so that should be the charging section. I really think that just makes
I
more
can see that.
sense.
You're saying so to put first where it's required, and then underneath how you implement it.
Yep, how you implement it, which would include if you wanted to do it voluntarily.
Right.
Instead of an exception, should we make a subsection like called installation?
Except that if the charging says that this only applies to new construction, if you don't have something right there, well, actually, you could actually what it should do. Well, you have your 3.6, so you have your electric charging. 317. Right. Sorry, I gotta pull up the actual code. I'm getting a little.
Quinn is here.
Yep, I'm just here now. So just
Okay, we're discussing the order and numbering of the section.
did you guys talk about which option you guys prefer?
That's
Yeah.
what we're kind of talking about, but we're also talking about, Ken has suggested that the application section actually be the charging language, because that's saying where it's required. And then in order to do that, we'd need to use option 1 where it had the exception for the existing that tells you how to install those.
Got it.
And then everything else goes beneath.
I'm a little concerned about putting new and required language as an exception. I mean, if I don't want to, if it just seems like we have to go into the exception number 2 in order to figure out what to do in existing buildings.
Right, which happens. I mean, because it's basically, this is saying that it only applies to new construction, except if you're, yeah, I mean, I kind of see where you're at. It's,
So this is where we can just, I mean, we talk reality is if I have an existing home and I decide to put one of these in, I don't turn to the IRC. I'm applying for electrical permit.
yeah, and that is, yeah, because we don't adopt electrical under the IRC. But it's a fail safe. So yeah, I guess,
Couldn't you have
I mean, I guess,
paragraphs under the application section, one that talks about new construction with its one exception, and then in existing buildings, you need to comply with X.
Well, so the model code applies to all existing and new. What we're trying to distinguish is that the requirement to put in, you know, a dedicated spot for future EVSE is specific to new construction, but have the requirement that it be done in accordance with NFPA 70 and the UL applies to everything. And I think that's where the exception, if it makes it seem like that the NFPA 70 and UL only applies to existing dwelling units and doesn't apply to new construction.
so what if we, okay, so this is all our own language. So what if we left the charging language as is, where it says this is how you have to install them? But then instead of I'm trying to figure out where I have your thing open. Instead of having the section for application, just for 317.6.2, have it as 317.6.1 and just say, dedicated circuit for electric vehicle charging, say for new construction, a minimum of 1 and for dedicated blah, blah, blah shall be provided. Instead of having an entire subsection that just says this one section after applies to new construction, just add the language at the in this first sentence that says for new construction. Does that make sense? And then you get rid of a whole subsection. And then you have under that, you have the exception for if there's no public power or whatever it is.
So basically merge the state amendment into one section.
Yeah. So instead of having application, just have the dedicated
charging language, model language applies to everything, then one section for state amendment with the
right. It just says for new construction, this is what you have to provide. Does that make sense? I mean, it kind of condenses it into one instead of that application section seems to be just a whole lot of wordiness. The section shall apply to the construction of new dwelling units. Because what's the per section R101.2?
I think that's the scoping language that talks about what
It's included in the IRC.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me that you're in the IRC. So it's like, if it's scoped under this code, then use this. It's like you're already in the code. So I'm confused. But
yeah, this state though, we did amend 101.2.
Yeah.
And then I think what Patrick and I were doing is trying not to make that much of a change to the model code. We were trying to leave as much remaining as possible.
Well, but there is no model code. This entire section is new, is state. So the
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah.
seventeen point 6.1
Mhm.
isn't model code at all. Only 317.6 is model code. The model code only has the install it per blah blah blah. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can word it however you want. It's all state.
Is there anyone that objects to basically doing a new option 3, have the model language from the 2024 IRC as the charging language, and then convert the state amendment into one condensed section? Anybody opposed to that? Okay.
I'm not opposed, but what would happen if we just took our state stuff and just dropped it at the bottom of chapter 3 and just, take our existing state language and just put it at the bottom?
What do you mean?
So we have our existing whack, and then we have a. No, I'm going to pull that back because it does talk about this section applies. So no, that doesn't work. I'm sorry. I'll back that one out.
I do like the specific language that says construction of new dwelling units, and I agree we don't need to reference the scoping section. We could, since there is an existing buildings section in the IRC, we could also make a change there if we felt like we needed to clarify, to separate. But I do like that one sentence. So if we're going to scrap some of our language, scrap the scoping, maybe we still keep that specific construction of new dwelling units, because I think that's really clear.
I can put that on into a code proposal and bring it back to the tag.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any discussion? So Patrick is you're going to create an option 3 that sort of condenses it. So there's just 2 sections, 317.6 and 317.6.1.
Yeah, that'll be the only option in the.
Oh, okay. That'll be it.
Yeah, but it's, yeah.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on that? Okay. Okay. So I think that would be, I don't think we need a motion or anything on this. Since it's not an official proposal yet. Is that right, Dustin?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, so Patrick, you'll work with that one. And we'll bring back, I think, we got some other momentum for the sprinklers. Barry let me know he's trying to bring that one back on the 18th for us to look at. Maybe we can entertain this one again on the 18th. And our polling for next Tuesday is not conclusive whether or not we'll have quorum or not have quorum just yet.
Then don't we have a meeting? Isn't it the 14th? Next
Without-
Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. And the 18th is then the next Tuesday. Is that right?
Yeah, looking at the calendar. So yeah, we got the 14th, we got the 12th, the 14th, and the
19th.
the 19th. That's correct. So and it might have been just a typo in the message I got there. So we can hear them at any time if we want to bring it back. I was just thinking if we got a lot of mileage left on the significant changes report, and so if we're bringing them, bring back multiples of the existing amendment, kind of talk at the same time.
Yeah. Quinn?
Yeah, this question is mainly for you, Angela. The 14th, we have wobble. So I don't know if we'll be able to meet.
What's the WABO? Oh, that's the executive board, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the group could still meet as long as I can make sure Dan is going to be here, who appears to be on the meeting right now.
Yes.
So Dan, are you able to attend next Thursday?
Yeah, the 14th, I have it on my schedule, so
Okay,
I'm able
so
to attend.
Okay, so we can still do the meeting. I will not be here. Neither will Quinn. But
Okay.
there's no reason to just stop the world because of me. So let's keep the momentum going. So yeah, we'll keep the meeting.
Okay.
And so I
So-
guess, yeah, just to give them some time so that we can then bring these back kind of as a group. Maybe we slate this to come back on the 19th. So a week from Tuesday. Does that work for you, Patrick?
I mean, I'll probably have it in by the end of today, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. And then we'll discuss it though. We'll have it on the agenda for the 19th. It'll be posted and everything for everybody. Okay. So just for scheduling purposes, because I think we had talked about getting dates put on when things will come back. So we'll say the EV is on the 19th.
Gotcha. So we have two more from Jen to look at. We've got lofts and sleeping lofts proposed changes, and then a look at Appendix BB for tiny houses. I figured it'd be better to go through the lofts and sleeping lofts sections first, and then get to the appendix. So we'll pop that one open, and Jen, if you're ready, I will turn it over to you to talk about what we have going on here.
Sure. And I'm not sure where it makes sense to start. So basically what I found is that we had borrowed some things from tiny houses. That's why we're talking about this. And then in order to make our new lofts section. So these three definitions these are all from the appendix for tiny houses. So the first one, egress roof access window, this one we can keep if we do want to use that throughout other structures other than tiny houses. But if we do that, we need to, I believe, also do an amendment in 319. So basically in the tiny house lofts, they say, well, you can just use this egress roof access instead of your typical, emergency escape and rescue opening. And that works. And that makes sense in that context of this little loft that's up at the roof, right, in this tiny space. I've seen an applicant try to propose this because now it is in the rest of the IRC, in a habitable attic, and an inspector took issue with how do you measure the sill height. Well, tiny houses actually did think that through, and there's another section, it's 105 in that appendix, that clarifies that you measure to the bottom of the opening for the sill height. So it still has to meet the same dimensions, and basically the opening becomes the sill height. That's the part that we didn't also include when we first added this to 202. So we could either just repeal this and say, you know what, that's a tiny house concept and we're going to leave that there. Or if we want to keep it, let's change 319 to make that clarification of how to use this instead of your typical window. So I don't know if others have thoughts around that, which direction to go with.
So I guess my question is that a habitable attic has its own section. So per what you were discussing, that's a different issue for that. Right?
Well, it's just my example because a habitable attic will end up typically without a vertical wall where you would have, where you typically add the emergency escape and rescue. That's just only where I've seen it proposed. But it's really not specific to that at all. So this could be used in the new sleeping loft section as well. So the model code did not do that, right? The model code added sleeping lofts and did not, I don't think, add the concept of an egress roof access window for that. It says that the egress for the room below is sufficient. So
okay,
so
it does. Okay, I see our exception would have said that you could comply with the loft section for it. Okay.
Yeah. So in the spirit of let's, not have amendments that we don't need, I had to pick one way or the other in order to do this document. So we can just repeal this amendment with also landing platform and loft. These would go back to tiny houses. So we didn't just copy them, we actually struck them from that appendix. So we can't kill them here unless we add them back there. Those things have to go together. But we no longer need these landing platform or loft because of the new sleeping loft section. And they've added a definition for sleeping loft, and they don't really need that landing platform definition, I guess. So we could just repeal all these, put them back into tiny houses, and that's my recommendation.
So then for lofts, what would be your egress requirement then if you don't allow an egress roof access window?
So I believe the sleeping loft section addresses it and says that the egress for the room below is sufficient. If we may not agree, I'm not sure. I don't, I've learned that apparently lofts can be as shallow as 3 feet, which is not a lot of space, especially when you put a mattress up there. So you could have a 12-inch mattress, you've got 2 feet above you. That area is going to fill with smoke first. So they're kind of inherently dangerous. But again, model code has that whole section, and it's very, very similar to what we had in just lofts. They have added some additional sections. So that's my suggestion here. It might make more sense when we look at all of it to make the final decision on what to do with these definitions once we've looked at the rest of this and the tiny house appendix.
Okay. So in the new, or even in the state, and I hadn't looked at that close, is egress roof access window used in the state amendments? Is it?
No, the only place that we added it is here in definitions. And that's actually kind of the problem, right? We didn't add that clarification, but no. So when you go to R319 to learn about what you can do for emergency escape and rescue openings, it never mentions egress roof access.
Even allowed. So they're not even allowed to be used per se, because they're not included in allowable egress systems except in tiny houses.
No, the definition for egress roof access window says right there that you're allowed to use it to satisfy the requirements of what has been 310. So
it's in the definition. So that, it was bad. It was.
Yeah, exactly. It was like half done, right? Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying I think we can just repeal it and keep our lives easy. Or if we want to really keep it, if people think like this is a really great option to have, people are asking to do this in their homes, then let's just make those changes in R319 to explicitly allow it and clarify the sill height issue.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if we scroll down to the next section, so this is the guards, where guards are required. So when the model code added this new sleeping loft section, they basically didn't make any changes to like your standard guard section, right? So this doesn't say that it needs to be, this applies to stairs, this applies to open-sided walking surfaces, right? So you would still need a 36-inch guard everywhere. In the sleeping loft section, sorry, I need to pull that up for my own sanity on my computer so I can look at it. What section is sleeping loft? 315?
321 is the new section. Or sorry, hold on, no. I'm following along with what you got going on.
315, it is. I think it is.
Yeah.
It says very similar, 315 sleeping loft.
Sleeping loft. So where? Yeah, again, this is so intertwined with tiny houses that I'm forgetting what is where. So there's really nothing in sleeping lofts that addresses guards. I don't think.
Well, it says it shall comply with this code as modified by these sections. So basically everything else in the code still applies to that.
Right.
So guards would apply still.
So the guards would apply. So when we added this number 3, we are allowing shorter guards.
Yes.
We are allowing guards as low as 18 inches, because if you only have a 36-inch loft, it can be half the height of the loft.
And that was on purpose.
Yeah. So, but that comes from the tiny house loft section. So that's not something we dreamed up either. So I think that a loft in a tiny house is a little bit of a different application than any big old loft in a great room of a house or in a regular sleeping room. They're a little bit different. So I don't love an 18-inch guard. I think that's a tripping it's dangerous. You can have a mattress thicker than that, so somebody could just roll right off their mattress onto the floor. Maybe in a tiny house, less likely for that to happen. I don't know, but
But so if you have a mattress that goes over the 18-inch guard, then you've got less than 1.5 feet of space above that mattress, which you couldn't roll off of. Even a child couldn't roll over in that. Because you're talking 12 inches between us, basically 18 inches between a mattress and the ceiling, which means that. So the reason this is because otherwise, if you do require a 36-inch guard, one, falling through an 18-inch opening is harder than if you could stand up. You can't if you're a 3-foot high person, it's coming and you can stand up. So if you're a child, it's halfway up your body. And so that was the reason for this, is because you're kind of looking at one, you're again, an 18-inch space to sleep in, and then falling out of that is a bit different. So I just know that it did come from tiny houses, and when this section was created, WABO did discuss that, and it was basically that it's kind of the same thing as, if you don't want to create a jail cell either, where you've got to,
Yeah. So then I think the only change we would need then, if we want to keep this very simple, the only changes we need to make is say sleeping lofts instead of lofts, and then reference R315.
And so I did send you that thing late yesterday. I know after you did this. And again, if the tag would like to see this guard fixed or whatever, please feel free to discuss and repeal this. I'm just giving you the history behind kind of where it was written. And Quinn can correct me if I'm wrong. But also, with the sleeping lofts, I think I was incorrect. So at the last ICC or the 24 ICC where the sleeping loft section was created, WABO did put that to put it into the model code, but we did not include the word sleeping. WABO actually had just lofts because, like you said, we thought that all of these things should apply, whether people label it as a sleeping loft or not, because they're going to use it to sleep in. You know what I mean? But the ICC people wanted people to be able to play with it, just like they do a den or a home office or, things like that, where they say, no, it's not going to be a bedroom. It's fine. We don't have to put an egress window in. So that's something to consider for the tag to consider is, again, with that background, do we want to keep the word sleeping in? As far as from just, I'd like you to think about it as from an enforcement or builder sort of view, what makes more sense? Do you want people to have to, if they don't label them as a sleeping loft, then what does apply if it's just a loft? Does that make sense? Because we no longer have you know what I'm saying? So again, that's just something to think about when we were talking about between keeping lofts or adding sleeping to the rest of it. Does that make sense, Jen?
It does. Of course, no, I'm not confused. Of course, my suggestions were based on the premise that now we have this new definition. I don't think that limits it to sleeping only. I think I kind of like it there because it keeps it in everybody's mind that people are going to sleep there, and that we are assuming that could happen. So all of these requirements apply. And then we would have to do a lot of amendments to, strike that in the model code language. So I would probably lean with sticking to that. But whatever we decide at the end as a group, then obviously we just make those changes where we need to, right? Either loft or sleeping loft.
Yeah, so does anybody else have any discussion between making it specific sleeping loft with the code or doing changes? Mariko?
Quinn had his hand up first.
Oh, sorry, I have a thing over. I can't see his hand. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry,
good.
Quinn.
No problem. I was just gonna expand on the history on it. I believe this is a John Sue proposal at the ICC, and originally Wobble did have it as sleeping loft, but I think, if memory serves, he worked with NHB at the ICC level, and it was agreed upon to remove sleeping from this, and so
No,
that's
it
why.
is sleeping. No, it was the
Was it
opposite.
sleeping? Well,
It
opposite.
is
Okay, yeah. So
sleeping. It is sleeping lofts. Yeah, that was a negotiation that
Yeah.
we added sleeping in order for them not to oppose
got it.
it.
Yeah. So the main history is that we did work with NHB on this. So just a little history on that one.
Mariko?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I agree with what you've said, Angela, and that I personally would like to see it go back to lofts like we had it. We had 2018 Washington Residential Code called it a sleeping lofts. We had a proposal for the 2021 code to strike sleeping and just call it lofts because what we were seeing, at least in Seattle, was like we would say, oh, you have these requirements, and they, oh no, actually this is just a storage loft. And so, just changing the label, they can get rid of having to meet these requirements. So, changing it to lofts instead of sleeping lofts. Now all the requirements need to be met, and we're not playing like name games.
So I would propose then we decide as a group and maybe take a vote which we're going to use, and then we scrap the rest of this conversation because I'm going to have to go back and do the opposite and change what I'm proposing to change for just this. We can still talk about tiny houses, but we don't need to. If we're going to go with lofts, that changes everything.
And then, well, okay, so I mean, because if we go with lofts, then basically it's the change. The biggest change would be the leaving the loft definition.
Oh, yeah, I would look at the I would need to look at both, and the loft and sleeping loft, and make sure that we're basically still using probably what's the model code. Maybe they're identical, I don't know. And then a lot of the other changes would just be to update the section number from R333 to R315.
And then scratching the word sleeping wherever it was. So
right. So yeah, so I can go through, and then it sounds like we want to keep that guard as low as 18 inches.
Again, does anybody else have any discussions on that? Because again, this would apply again to all lofts, and whether there's a mattress in there or not, or anything like that. So if people aren't comfortable with the 18-inch guard with the 18-inch opening, please speak up. I was just I'm not trying to force my opinion on anyone. I might sound like that sometimes. I'm really not. But it's just a matter of how it had been discussed when we moved it into when Wabo proposed moving it to the regular code. Quinn?
Yeah, one more thing to think about too is that we got this adopted in the IBC. So one of the arguments was to match both codes. We don't have to, but just as something to consider, that if we're changing it here, then there should be a similar proposal to the IBC tag as well. So something to think about.
I do have a thought on the guard there. So looking at, window fall protection and openings and guards and all that, the limitation is for a 4-inch opening in the rest of the guards across the code, except for the triangular openings along the sides of stairs. And so, this was adopted by Washington in, I'm not sure exactly which cycle it came in, but it was deliberately put in there, and I'm not proposing we take it out, but just my thought is that everywhere else there's a guard or a fall prevention, and, you know, like swimming pool guards and things like that, the opening is limited to 4 inches. And, you know, when I was introduced to the code years and years ago, the opening of 4 inches was, you know, to prevent children from going through. So much larger than that, you know, I guess, you know, a child may not practically roll over a mattress that's 18 inches tall and, you know, there's an 18-inch opening, but I think the possibility is still there for someone to wiggle through that. And, you know, but that's just, I just wanted to bring up that everywhere else, a 4-inch opening is the max opening below the guard height.
Ken?
As much as I would like to simplify everything, if we remove the word sleeping loft is referenced in other sections, and in my world, it's referenced in 310.3 for the smoke alarms. So we would have to go in and amend that section too, right? If we were
Right,
just
everywhere in the code, if we decided to go away from sleeping lofts, it would be across the IRC that we would do a proposal to basically remove the word sleeping. Yeah.
So my vote would be not to remove the word sleeping, and unfortunately, I need to jump off here at 10 o'clock. So if you need me to vote on anything, I need to do that now.
But we
Yeah,
don't have a proposal yet. These are all just discussion points.
Got it. Thanks.
and when Ken's out, we still have quorum for the moment.
Except we were losing someone else from 10 to 11.
Yeah, Annie O'Rourke says she's out at 10 to 11. And when she's out, we'll be no quorum.
But we can still discuss these because again, we're not taking any official action until we have these in a proposal form.
Well,
yes,
yeah,
I
some of
know-
them are just repealing some, I don't know if, yeah, some of them are just repealing amendments, so that wouldn't need a proposal, I don't think.
Yeah, that would be actually repealing. Does that mean we do need a proposal to remove them, Dustin?
Yeah, we definitely need like if we could bring this back, and you know, if this is the proposal that we're looking at here, this can just be added to the bottom of the proposal form. No need to like necessarily rework this wheel here, but we would definitely need to vote on that as a proposal, yes.
Okay, so when we were going through the existing amendments and we were deciding repeal or not, I just thought that some of these would,
Some
this
of
is
these,
just an
so-
explanation to help us get there, but where like, so these individual definitions, if we just want to repeal an amendment, we can't do that. We have to do it as a proposal now.
Well, I can definitely draft that up, but as the recommendations in that report, anything that's editorial, like moving sections around, or changing small words, can be done editorially without a specific proposal. But to repeal a definition, we'll definitely need a clear proposal on that one.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily need tag members to draft something like that up, those simple ones to just strike an amendment. I can definitely put that in and we can vote on it as a group and have a document that goes with that.
Okay. Do you want to talk about tiny houses now?
Yeah. So we're all done with this one? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll rework it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna duck out at this point. I'll be back at 11.
All right. Thank you, Annie. Just let us know when you get back, because that will reestablish our quorum.
Will do.
Thank you. All right. Appendix BB, tiny houses.
So I did this. I think it makes sense to look at this side by side with the existing amendments report because a lot of it is just leaving the model code language in place. So it's kind of hard to see that change without comparing it to that other document.
Let me get that open.
So really nothing changed in the model code language. The only thing that's all in blue and it's all just the section numbers. So that's nice. We're just dealing with what we want and in relation to lofts and sleeping lofts. I think it's like page 52 or something. Yeah, oh, up, there you go, where those definitions are. So then on the Word document, you know, basically I've just left all those definitions in place that were there originally. So we may want to then discuss, you know, okay, actually, are we still going to strike loft in Appendix BB in order to move it to Section 202?
What's the appendix number for the
It was a Q. So yeah, you see you're there. Just go up a little bit,
Okay.
like to get those
Okay.
definitions. There you go, right
Thank you.
there. And then, yeah. So then in the Word document, if you want to scroll down to those definitions. So here's how they appear in the model code language, and I was suggesting leaving them there, but so if anybody has thoughts on those still, the definition for loft here is different, I think, than what we put in 202, but we did strike it out of here.
Hey, Dustin,
Yes, sir.
Ron Perkowitz here, not to interrupt, but I had trouble logging in this morning, so I was on the phone side of this. So I don't know if, marking me here affects your quorum number or not.
It does. So with Ken out, you are the primary for that seat. So with you here, we are good to go.
Yeah, I've been here since about 9:15, 9:20. I don't know what was going on this morning about logging in, but anyway,
Okay.
I'm here.
Well, I appreciate it, Ron.
Okay, so basically, Jen, though, your suggestion is pretty much to just get rid, or no, most of tiny houses is or we've used the base language anyway, right? I mean, there
Yeah.
aren't a ton. Okay.
No, we've made few changes. But of course, I was making the suggestions here based on, you know, we don't have our own loft. We're just using sleeping lofts. And so that changes things a little bit. We still think I guess we do need to decide what we're doing with those egress roof access windows. Do we want to only limit those to tiny houses, or do we really want them anywhere else?
I don't have a very strong opinion, but I would agree with your recommendation, Jen, for the egress roof access window and landing platforms. And I'd be happy putting them back in the appendix. And then lofts, I think maybe as we look through the whole loft versus sleeping loft thing to see if it makes sense to have the same definition, or if that gives us an issue.
Yeah,
Well,
I think we get that sorted first, and then that'll inform what we do exactly with loft specifically. But
Yeah.
I think landing platform is not used, and so okay, so that would be my recommendation, is to put those back here. And again, we can agree. We're not going to make any final decisions today. And then the definition for tiny house, we had amended to specify dwelling unit instead of just dwelling. I'm not sure why. It above right there, you can see this appendix shall be applicable to tiny houses used as single dwelling unit. So I just think that's unnecessary. And it's a dwelling, and it's one dwelling unit. And then my recommendation was to just, again, whether we're saying lofts or sleeping lofts, we need to either keep that amendment, or we can lose potentially sleeping lofts. But it sounds like, sounds like we're going with lofts, right? Not sleeping lofts.
In here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess though my question is, okay, so where it says scoping tiny houses shall comply, where is it for the single? Where it says they shall be used for as a single dwelling unit. So by that scoping, technically you could have a tiny house duplex. A dwelling is is made up of dwelling units. So I'm just, so this, yeah, shall apply to tiny houses used as single dwelling units. So technically you could put a duplex of tiny house dwelling units and it would be a dwelling. Does that make sense?
I think that that was exactly what they were trying to clarify there, though. I think the intent was to say, no, that they're standalone dwelling units. So
Well,
maybe
it
they
says
didn't.
it doesn't say used as a single dwelling.
Right.
So that would be what would clarify that. So that's where I don't know if the intent actually is to say, because there's minimum areas and things like that for dwell, or no, in the IRC there aren't, correct? There, because I guess that's what this is like. If you have, you could even do them as townhouse units. It's just that you're allowed to have different sort of requirements. Do you see what I mean? It kind of lessens things, like, except.
Yeah, it doesn't say they need to be detached.
Right. So that's where I'm not sure if that was sort of, so I mean, you could have like a tiny house village where they're all basically like townhouses, you know?
Well, whatever the model code was intending, maybe it makes sense then to not change the definition for tiny house and leave it as is, right?
And I may be just confusing the situation. I'm just reading it as that, and I'm looking, I guess, where were you saying to remove the word unit?
In the definition of tiny house.
Here, I'll show you what we got for Washington.
So basically they're using both, right? In the scoping, they're saying dwelling unit, and then they're just calling it a dwelling in the definition. Model code,
and we added unit.
We added unit.
So, okay, yeah. So by removing the word unit, what we would be doing and again, for the definition is that would be detached 400 square foot or less dwellings. So that's a single structure that's under 400. So that would take out the allowance for having them attached. What we added in is what would have allowed to have a bunch of attached ones. So
I don't think that's clear. I don't know if I mean,
so
if that's what we were trying to
with,
do, then maybe if that's really what we want to do, then I think we need to clarify that further, because that's not
right. And that's what I don't know where that amendment came from to know if that is what the intent was. But what I'm saying is that's what our state amendment would have done or does is allows attached. Because it's not limiting the size of the structure itself. It's limiting the size of each individual dwelling unit that make up a dwelling as a whole. Does that, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I never even thought about that until this came up. But if somebody were under our current state proposals were to propose, say, 4 attached tiny houses, in my mind, that would be allowed with the state amendment. Without the state amendment, then it wouldn't be. Mariko?
I just wanted to read from the 2021 IRC commentary. This appendix is not meant to exclude attached dwellings that do not exceed 400 square feet. They face the same code compliance challenges as detached tiny houses because of their small size. Both detached and attached accessory dwelling units are common, blah, blah, blah. Just for where the IRC is coming from.
Okay, so then it sounds like we still don't need the word unit because that's the intent. And if we added that in order to be like, hey, you can have attached dwelling units, I think again, I don't know, I think we should clarify that further. I don't think That's a lot of
So,
philosophical
yes.
arguments we're making here that nobody else is privy to. That
Right. Well, with that commentary though, I can see why as a state we put that in because the commentary is not code. It is it's an opinion. And so basically I think we may have added unit in order to clarify that as and codify it as saying yes, you can have attached tiny houses because otherwise it is absolutely jurisdictional as far as what they want
Okay.
or do not want to allow is
and then
so
and
yeah.
without that, the dwelling would be limited to 400 square feet. So then really you would
Right.
have maybe 200 square foot.
Or
That's
you'd
not gonna
have to
work.
have
Yeah.
single 400 that would somehow have to be separated
Okay.
or whatever. Versus, again, if the intent was to actually allow attached, again, you have to go to the commentary. And yeah, a lot of us go, okay, that was the intent, so we're going to allow it. But that's not something that jurisdictions have to allow because, again, it's an opinion. So I guess with that, with the commentary in mind, if the tag agrees that yes, we want to allow attached, I would say leave the unit in there. But again, does anybody else have any discussion on that? Thank you, Mariko, for bringing that up too. Nope. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll put the word unit back, and then we're not gonna make any additional changes to clarify.
I don't think we would need to, yeah.
Okay. All right. So then the next thing that we altered is the ceiling height. I think that's the next one. Yeah. So here's the base language. Ceiling heights in lofts are permitted to be less than 6 feet 8 inches, which is the habitable ceiling height elsewhere for the tiny house. And we just amended this to point back to our new loft section that we had added that had you can go as low as 3 feet. So we can keep that amendment, but instead it would point to 315. But there's some other sections in tiny houses where ceiling height is affected, and there's even a figure where in a tiny house loft, a portion of the loft can be less than 3 feet. So again, this is another one of those amendments that I think we made, but we didn't do all of the work. So if we scroll further down in this appendix, there's the height effect, and then there's this figure that shows a portion. So if we point back to 315, then a lot of this doesn't make sense anymore because now you don't have this area that's less than 3 feet, which we could do. Again, I think, in the such small area of the tiny house, where they have a sloped ceiling, it's like the portion that's usable is counted as the loft, but then they can still have this sort of, I guess, alcove or whatever you want to call it, that maybe it's only 12 inches and they put books there, right? Well, now we're kind of prohibiting that, but we didn't really, again, say, okay, well, now this figure doesn't make sense and this height effect doesn't apply. So that's a little confusing. I think we could leave this in and just let the section 315 lofts, that would apply everywhere else. But in the tiny house, they sort of have this additional option of having this lower portion. We still, they can still go down to 3 feet, right? So we're not limiting it by repealing that amendment because it already says it can be less than 6'8", and this makes it clear it can be whatever dimension. It's just like you have this required area for the loft.
because the base code doesn't actually have that picture, that it doesn't have the figure in it.
In the 2024 code, that figure does make an appearance.
I'm sorry, not in the base code. I meant in the state code. My bad. In the 21. Yeah, that is in the 24. Yeah. Yeah, so okay, so in the 21 code, our tiny house section simply refers back to the loft section in the main code. Okay, so yeah.
And then the main code is going to limit that to 3 feet.
A minimum, yeah, of 3 feet. I was looking though, so now.
So we could still do that, but then I think maybe we strike, we have an amendment to strike this height effect and the figure. But I think that's limiting for a tiny house. I just don't think that that's a life safety thing that we need to fix, right?
Right. And so also we don't currently have that minimum horizontal dimension.
Maybe is that, well, see, and this is what's hard. Yeah. So did we strike that and that's not in the existing amendments, or was it new because it wasn't highlighted in blue?
Well, so section R 3333 for lofts, that was a full state amendment, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So basically it didn't exist. Or I guess in the 21 base code, I guess I didn't look at, sorry, at what the IRC said to see what we did specifically scratch.
So the minimum horizontal dimensions was in the 2021 tiny house appendix. So that was added. So that's not new now. So we had that in the 2021 tiny house appendix, right?
It wasn't in our state. That's what I was checking, was in the actual base code appendix for tiny houses, what was there for lofts, because I think we scratched the whole loft section, did we not?
Oh yeah, it looks like we did. So maybe the existing amendments, I think the existing amendments report is missing all of that then.
Or okay, because there is, because AQ 104.
So this is what's really hard is like when we, so like when you look at AQ 104, it looks like that's all us, and it is, but so you don't see all the stuff that was struck in this report, I guess. So that's what's hard to compare it to the report.
You're right. Yeah, because like that figure, everything, those are in the 21 base code. So we scratched, okay.
It looks like we scratched AQ 104 and 105 and brought the energy conservation. The only pointer that we don't adopt energy conservation. Hold on, I'm struggling here just a little bit. So 105 is there, but it's not adopted. 106 is not adopted, and it's interesting the way this is written in the WAC. So AQ 104 is energy conservation, and then there's just pointers back to 105 and 106 saying they're not adopted.
This is how it's really hard to go through the existing amendments report because you think you're just looking at the red text as the change, and it turns out there's a whole bunch. And
this goes back to the whole WAC issue of it's not clear because it doesn't show strikeouts. It just shows the new code language, so it doesn't actually show you what's been removed. If it's removed, it's just not there. And so
And sorry, I'm rushing to do this, and I've essentially completely abandoned my regular job, and I'm still missing all this stuff because I still don't have enough time to dedicate to what it really needs. So, okay, well then I guess this whole report is garbage too. And
no,
well, you know what I
it's
mean?
not.
Like we
It's
can't.
It's just a matter of comparing across, and we did it. So comparing the base code, like lofts area, it appears that there's maybe not a lot of difference between the 21 and 24 base codes, and so yeah, we need to consider the stuff that was taken out that we didn't include in the R33 loft section. Do we want to keep that out? Is, I guess, would be the discussion.
Yeah, and that makes sense why it's missing, because again, this doesn't make sense if you limit lofts to 3 feet, right? Like this stuff, it's like one or the other. You can't kind of have a combination. Yeah. Well, the more we go back to the model code, the less amendments we have, and I'm still in favor of that in general.
Right, and I think keeping things in the appendix section, I'm not opposed to, just because it makes it a little more self-contained. But again,
and it works good for tiny houses and that context specifically versus
lofts and things that are in houses. We're not, because again, we're not talking about apartments in multifamily, like in the IBC, where again, you're in a limited space. We're talking about lofts in tiny houses versus a loft in a large house, which is basically just bonus space. So yeah, that's, anybody else have any input on this? Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I know this work is important, but I think we've spent a lot of time on the stuff today. So if there's something that Jen needs feedback like specifically on, that we can provide. If not, we still have a lot of the report of the significant changes to go through, and we need to get to proposals. And so if there's something specific she needs our feedback on, if we can address that. If not, come back with whatever revisions and look at that in a future meeting.
Well, I guess, the feedback is what are people's opinion on the loft section as far as keeping, do you lean towards keeping what the changes, the amendments that were made that remove some things, or do you think that going to the base code, closer to the base code, is the target? I mean, because there are, I think that's where we're at. This one is a tough one, Jen. I guess if you want to come up with a proposal using, and again, we're not going to revisit this until the 19th, so a week from Tuesday. We'll revisit it the same as Patrick's. But so I guess using what you had suggested, if you want to put that into a proposal, even if it's keeping stuff that we had originally taken out, then when it comes back as a proposal in a week and a half, then we can discuss it, and everybody should be prepared to basically suggest any changes to that proposal and things so that we can take action on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that works. If anybody wants to help me and work on this, that would be great. I think if we're largely, if my proposal is going to be largely leave the model code in place, there's not going to be too much work I need to do. But just, I haven't had anybody to just do this with. Yeah. So, and then we could briefly, before we're done here, look at the air leakage stuff, and I can show you what I did there.
Okay, I think Mariko, did you have?
I was just gonna offer to Jen that if she needs some support, I can help.
Thank you. My hero. Thank you.
So you two can work together to come up with something. And again, we will address it at the meeting on the 19th.
Okay.
So a week from Tuesday.
Great.
All right. Thank you. All right. And now you were going to discuss what you did on the air leakage.
Yeah, largely it's keeping it. I mean, Dustin, if you want to scroll on the Word document to that section. I just, for the air leakage testing, we kind of wholesale replaced that section, but some of that language was base code. So I just was being more specific and teased that apart where really all we've done is, so we had struck that the air leakage testing be in accordance with blah, 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 because we have our own section. Although there had been this other sentence in there that apparently we struck that explains what the dwelling unit enclosure area is. And it's italicized as if it's a definition, but it's not. So I don't know if it used to be a definition and at some point the IRC dropped it, but I think it is helpful to keep that little explainer sentence of dwelling unit enclosure area of what that means. And we just, I guess, wouldn't italicize it because it's not really a definition. So that's my only change, is to just keep that sentence there. I think that's helpful, unless there's somebody that says, oh no, that's totally the wrong enclosure explainer. And then we also talked about in that little next section, we have where this air leakage rate is not exceeding blah, 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 which we figured out just means it's actually what it already needs to comply with. And if Dustin, if you can scroll so we can read that. But really the base language, I think, is actually fine. It just basically says where it complies with that section above. So I don't think we need to make any amendment there. I think that's one that we could just repeal. It's the same meaning, saves us an amendment. Unless anybody has heartburn over that, I'll leave that in there. And then we did strike this 106 alternative compliance about the energy code. So I've just, kept that the same, where we instead say we don't adopt that section. And Angela, we still need to have your discussion about 102 scope or 101 scope. I don't know if we're doing that today or another day, but let me know if you want to chat about that another time offline or what.
Yeah, we can do that. Because there is a proposal on that. So I'll reach out and we can schedule a time to talk about it, and we'll bring back a proposal on it for the 19th also, because that one should be a little more simple with everything. Okay, so I'll put that down. Okay, did anybody have any comments on the enclosure portion that we just went over? Okay, so Mirko and Jen can work together on that to bring back the proposal for that. Okay. Thank you very much for all the work, Patrick, Quinn, and Jen so far. Okay, so I think, now we're back to the
Significant changes report.
yes.
And we left off on this one at chapter 6.
Can we actually take a break since we're about halfway through, and then
Yep. We'll take is 10 minutes good for everybody? All right, so we'll be back at 10:40. Thanks.
All right, are we ready to get started back on chapter 6? All righty. So keeping in line with what we were doing at our last meeting, for the bulk of this report, the staff recommendation is to incorporate new model code language changes, and we're only pausing for recommendations to change or update existing amendment sections. And so We're in chapter 6, and I see Ken's back online as well. But chapter 6, wall coverings. Scrolling through. Not a bunch of model code language changes there. And so the recommendation for all of chapter 6 is to incorporate model code changes there. And I'll pause for any discussion on any of the recommendations for chapter 6. All right, seeing no hands coming up. That brings us to chapter 7, wall coverings. In this one, I have it marked for a amendment needed here. I believe we have a state amendment as well there. Let me look on my other report here. No. Oh, sorry. The recommendation to modify this one is an amendments needed to remove references to chapter 11 in this section. And that's a blanket section, and I've got some other updates for chapter 11 stuff and sections we've already discussed. Moving on. We have a 702.7.2 interior covering vapor retarder installation. Again, a reference to chapter 11 is contained in this new section, and amendments needed to strike that language. Same thing for this section here. References to chapter 11 exist, and the recommendation is to strike those. It's the end of chapter 7. Any discussion on chapter 7? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to chapter 8, roof ceiling construction. Only one change there in the roof ceiling construction. Patrick, I see you're unmuted.
Short, it's a short section.
Yes. Chapter 9, roof assemblies. the end of chapter 9. Anybody want to discuss anything contained in chapter 9? Seeing no hands, no unmutings. Chapter 10, chimneys and fireplaces. It's the end of chapter 10. I'll keep on moving unless I see some hands coming up. Chapter 11 is not adopted. Chapter 12, mechanical administration, contains no significant changes. Chapter 13, general mechanical system requirements. Nothing to note there other than some small changes. Chapter 14, heating and cooling equipment and appliances. That brings us to chapter 15, exhaust systems. And that brings us to chapter 16, duct systems. And then to chapter 17, combustion air. Chapter 17 has no significant changes. Same for chapter 18, chimneys and vents. Same for chapter 19, special appliances, equipment, and systems. Chapter 20, boilers and water heaters. Chapter 21, hydronic piping. Chapter 22, special piping and storage systems, contains no significant changes. Chapter 23, solar thermal energy systems, no significant changes. Chapter 24, fuel gas. Chapter 25 through 29 are not adopted. And so we didn't do reviews on significant changes within these chapters here. Chapter 34 through 41, electrical, I guess, and 42, swimming pools, are also not adopted. So a review of significant changes in those chapters are not adopted or not contained here. Chapter 44, reference standards. Most of these changes are updating to the current versions of the standards. There's a few new standards added. For the ANSI A10, or I guess for all the ANSI standards, we have an amendment here, and we're looking to modify that amendment, and that's contained in the existing amendments report, what those amendments are and the recommendation. So getting to that, we modify the CSA / ANSI LC. So there's that. Here it is. The LC1. So this line here is amended by the state, and we changed that from the 2018 to the 2019 section here, which appears to be updated in the model code, and then referencing specific sections, G2414.5. And I think that that is due to some amendments within that section there. But just updating that to align with what we have there and making sure the reference sections are accurate. And then the remainder of the ANSI section does not have any amendments and does have some updates though. I wonder if I have duplicate stuff in this section.
So Dustin, on the ASHRAE standard, we have a state amendment that has the 29 edition art, and I don't know it, or do you, I don't know if you caught it. Are we just deleting ours?
Yeah, so we in the ASHRAE stuff, I have that open. We have 34 2019 in here. Hold on.
And it's the 22 edition, yeah, now.
And okay. And so that needs to be updated in our existing amendment.
Well, we could probably just delete our existing amendment because it references the same section.
And then, well, we have also in there 62.2-19. And so we add that one in. So we'd still need the amendment, but we'd strike that section for the 2019, yes.
And I don't know if the 62.2 has an updated version or not. I'll try to figure that one out.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Looks like we're okay. Looks like the 2019 is most current.
Okay.
Nope, I was wrong. There's a 2022 version that's out, so we might need to update ours.
Wait. So in ASTM, we have an existing amendment for E2556/E2556M. This one right here, bringing it, looks like it references the 2010 and 2016. And we have struck the reference to 703.2 and added in a reference to M1411.1. So I just need to verify that that's still the accurate spot there. In the existing amendment report, the recommendation is to maintain that amendment. And then we also have 2558-2013. That one's added in, so we would maintain that in the state amendment. And then the next one is 3087-18, which is also added in by Washington for this section. Mouse is messing up. There you go. I thought. Maybe having some computer issues. One moment. Here, my computer's locking up, so sorry guys. Give me a moment here. I'm trying to close out some applications, and it's likely I'm having CPU issues.
Nothing but the best equipment that the state of Washington provides you.
Yes. Hmm.
Hey, Angela, can I ask you a question? So I know that we don't adopt Chapter 11, and it's right in the beginning of our WAC that we say that we don't adopt Chapter 11. And then seems like are we doing all these code change proposals just to eliminate any reference to those sections in Chapter 11 throughout the code? Was that what I was hearing that people were trying to do? And we don't, and I don't know if we do that in any other codes when we don't adopt a section that we go throughout the code and try to make all these specific
Well, you should be,
changes.
because if it's referencing like install per chapter 11, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you don't adopt chapter 11, what are you substituting it with?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just think it's so much.
I don't
If
think there's the
yeah,
IBC, you don't not adopt a whole lot of sections. I think, isn't this the only code that you like don't adopt full chapters?
I'm just trying to figure out wherever let's say we don't adopt a section, all right, and then but that section's referenced somewhere else in the code. I just don't think that's been past practice that we've gone back through and said, oh, just delete that section, because it just gives you it just points you to that section. So you go to that section, then find out, oh, the state didn't adopt it. So then
Right. And
I
so
don't use it.
what did you substitute it with then?
There was no substitution. That's what I'm just saying, is that there
Well, but if
is no
we don't
substitution.
like not adopting chapter 11 is like our energy efficiency, then it should, then either whatever it's referencing, because that's where I actually submitted a change under, I think it was energy storage systems or something in the code, because it referenced you, it said install per chapter like 11, whatever. Okay, so if we don't adopt, yeah, it's actually per manufacturer's installation instructions in chapters 34 through 43, which we don't adopt any of. So for stationary engine generators, what do you install per? It should be the NEC, correct?
Yeah, and I get that.
So,
So
yeah.
I'm just wondering, instead of just and I guess I just have to go back and look at all the references to chapter 11. If it's the only pointer, I can see making changes. But if there's other pointers, yeah, it just seems like unfortunately, it just seems like such a lot of work that we have all these specific amendments when we right up front in our scopes said, hey, we just don't apply chapter 11.
Right, but so if you don't replace that or remove it, then you have a dead end pointer. I mean, it's not good practice to leave dead ends throughout the code. I mean, it is cleanup. but
Yeah, I just see it as a lot of work. I mean, I understand the importance of it. It just seems like so much staff work and adding to our C102, CR 102. But all right, thank you for that.
I mean that's part of, why limiting our amendments and things is important so that, we would have to do less cleanup, but maybe Dustin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's part of just creating a cleaner code so that it eliminates confusion. Then,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I totally see Ken's point. It is
Yeah.
a lot. Could we say, we don't adopt it and all references to chapter 11 should instead blah blah blah? Could we do it that way? Instead see the Washington State Residential Energy Code.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did in the fire code. We just have a pointer when we don't adopt something. We point them to something else.
right, but where do you point it? Where do you put the pointer?
In the scope where you take it out.
So in the WAC for the fire
Yeah.
code, it says
no,
we don't
yeah,
adopt this, so go see this.
No, what I'm saying in the fire code, wherever we don't adopt a section,
So at chapter 11, you would basically say not adopted, refer to NEC.
yeah, something to that effect. I'm just trying to, when we say in our WAC, 003, provided that chapters 11 and 25 through 43 of the code are not adopted, we right there. So, hey, energy code is regulated. I mean, we could put the pointer right there in that section. I just think that we could use that section 5151.003 to our advantage and just make sure the users understand where to go for those items that are in the chapters that we're not adopting. I mean, we kind of do when we say energy code is regulated, plumbing code is regulated.
So Ken, in the spirit of reducing the amount of amendments, would you say that, like, for example, there's a lot of movement and pointers to chapter 11 with the definitions chapter. Would you say recommending to keep in WAC 5151.003 that we don't adopt chapter 11 and it's all regulated by the state energy code and leaving those definitions alone? And leaving them there to point to chapter 11, and then when we get to the publication of chapter 11, it just says not adopted and all that content's removed. Would you think that that's a sufficient amount of amendment to make that clear for everybody?
And yeah, in my opinion, it is. I think the user would realize, oh, that's not adopted. I go to a different section. That's in my opinion. But I'm just one person.
I mean, like when I think about all the places that we can touch chapter 11, so for example, in front of us where it references chapter 11 in these standards, there's a lot of places we could potentially clean this up to make it 100% clear that chapter 11 is just not in this publication. I was thinking, it was a question I was going to pose to the group is, what about chapter 11 references here? Do we need to clean that up and make these reference sections go away by state amendment? And kind of my thought here is no, this isn't the spot to make that amendment. But if we're doing it across the sections elsewhere, that it could be a relevant task to undertake for the reference standards.
I mean, if we can do it the way that Ken was saying and just have it in one place where it redirects you, that'd be fine. And you wouldn't have to touch all these.
I think it's clear for if we don't skip over that scoping whack that, or I guess for folks who don't skip that over, they'll be clear that chapter 11 is not adopted. But for anybody who just picks up a text to read on a specific section and they, if they don't have anything to do with full on residential construction, that, say we get somebody who's, not a contractor and they're going to act as their own general, that the pointers to the section that doesn't exist could end up being confusing and lead to questions to the jurisdiction / SBCC on, well, what do I do? And, I think that we entertain those questions frequently anyway, but, I
Well, but
on,
what about putting them for the whack or whatever, where it says not adopted, add the text that says what replaces them so that it shows up for that chapter. So like chapter 11, when you go to the Washington Code and it just says not adopted, can it say not adopted C and whatever code is in effect?
Yeah,
So
see
that-
chapter 51-11.r.
So that then it's not just up in the WAC scoping where a lot of people may not go, but so that it's actually in.
So take it, so we point here, we have a pointer back to the residential energy code. And then if we were to say, look at chapter 11, so we don't even make amendments via WAC to chapter 11 right now, but
So maybe we do.
I think that would be relevant. And I mean, I see Patrick has his hand up.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what people are trying to do. I don't think that this is a big concern in the industry. I think everybody knows that the energy code exists and that it applies. If there is confusion, it might be that when you go through the IRC, you might not know that there's something relevant in the energy code that you have to do. But I looked through the opinion requests on the SBCC website and I'm not seeing any confusion about how chapter 11 and the energy code work together. So and I get we want to try to clean up, and if we want to remove things and cut down less trees for paper, I think that's great, but I don't think this is a big concern. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but it doesn't just apply to 11. It's any of the chapters that we don't adopt. We have to go through and clean the rest of the code if they're referenced, right? And so it's the entire plumbing section.
I think
yeah.
I think it could be beneficial to add a pointer back to the, residential energy code for Washington, in these chapters. We don't currently have an amendment that adds that text, but I'll defer.
Jen?
Then the IRC is then adopting, I don't know, the energy code is a standalone requirement that doesn't need the IRC to tell you to go there. So it's just kind of, I don't know, if we start requiring it from within here, that's another layer of like requirement that we're adding really to the IRC. Well, I know we're trying to say it's like a helpful pointer, but it's either like a legal requirement or it's not. So maybe we do just leave it alone. I don't know. Unless we are really replacing, like, okay, we don't adopt this chapter because there's this other referenced standard that we're using instead. So you do have to comply with that. I don't know. I think it might muddy the water even though we're trying to clear things up.
Well, when the IRC says to comply with chapter 11, and then chapter 11 doesn't point you to the energy code, what do?
Well, I think the energy code requires you to comply with it anyways, regardless, right? You don't need the IRC to tell you to go comply with the energy code because it is making you do that on its own.
Okay.
I
Ron?
mean, I just see the arguments on both sides.
Ron?
I don't see the need to start loading up every one of those because we're gonna miss one, we're gonna miss one or two. And, it just says not adopted and you just move on. You know, the mom and pops or the 1 or 2 time users are gonna call Dustin or the local jurisdiction to get an answer. And the rest of us are gonna know what goes on.
Okay. So I guess as we move forward, a lot of the recommendations that I've made for chapter 2, if we want to reduce the amount of overall amendment, maybe the recommendations to all the pointers in chapter 11 should be removed and those amendments shouldn't be proposed, and we leave chapter 11 as not adopted. And that's clarity enough. It sounds like, there's chance for updates to happen later, so we could go through and do a clean sweep now, but if they're brought back in, in a future editions of the model code, there's potential for them to be missed there, or potential for them to be missed in our first sweep. I would defer to the group to make a call on that, what is the most clear for Washington code. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I think at this point, we have 3 weeks left and we need to get all the IRC stuff done. And I think the intention was to have you or staff do the cleanup on that. But you guys also need to start doing CR 102 prep and economic analysis stuff for the other codes. So I think at this point, unless it's really, really necessary for the code, we should probably prioritize what's the simplest, fastest, most efficient way. So if that means just not adopting chapter 11 and leaving it all be, I think that's kind of how it's been. And so it probably won't create any new issues. And I haven't heard that that's not a big concern from industry to fix that. So I think we'll live.
Is it currently fixed? So is it a change to not remove those references?
I think in some of our already amended sections that the references are changed, but there's other components of the amendment there. So by and large, in this report, though, the recommendation has been to remove those references. And so we would be creating some new amendments to do that. And so I don't necessarily think it's fixed right now. I think that it's not one way or the other across the code.
Okay. So, yep, whatever the group wants to do.
What's the easiest for you, Dustin?
The easiest for me would be to leave references to chapter 11 alone and rely on the 51-51-003 to say we don't adopt chapter 11, and that there points back to the 5111R for residential energy code, and it would not necessarily greatly reduce all the stuff I have to do, but it would remove one component of something I have to do for our draft work.
I'm in favor of that.
Any other discussion? All right, so I guess we'll go with that, Dustin.
Okay. My stuff appears to be unfrozen now. So we're here to the Canadian Standards Association. We do have an amendment in this section. the CAN/CSA/C22.2, which is down the way a bit. CAN/CSA 22.2. It looks like that's not included in the model code language. And so we add that in. And then looking further, we have the NMX-J, which is also not apparent in this model code language. So the recommendation in the existing amendments report is to maintain those. And then in UL, it appears we add UL/CSA/ANCE 60335-2-40. So let's see if I can spot that one in here. One looks like it's additive by the state of Washington. And the recommendation in the existing amendment report is to maintain that amendment. And that brings us to the appendices. One thing that's not here is we do have a chapter 45 added by the state of Washington. But since that's all amendment language, it's not included in the significant changes report or the model code. Significant changes and appendices that are not adopted are not outlined in this report. Mariko?
Yeah, what about appendices that are new to the 2024 IRC that we haven't evaluated adoption or not? Is that part of the work that we're supposed to be doing?
It can be part of the work that we're doing. They are not included in this report either. All the appendices that we do have referenced as adopted or available for use have gone through a proposal process. So if it's the will of this group, we could entertain review of some of those. Looking at the new appendices, I have to get in there real quick.
We don't need to get into it. If the normal process is through a proposal, then
I mean, does anybody else have thoughts on the new appendices? Should they be included in this report to show what the new language is? Or at least indicate that they are new appendices? Patrick?
I don't know what the tag has historically done, but ideally, right, we should be identifying any significant change in the model code, not necessarily tied to whether we've adopted it before, so that, you know, the SBCC can decide do we need to change any appendices we've adopted? Do we want to add new appendices? Do we want to remove appendices? So I don't know if historically we've done that. Ideally, we probably should, but that would probably create more work for you.
I mean, if we want to table this report at the appendices to bring that back, I can pop that information in here. As I'm running through here, the Appendix AA Board of Appeals has renumbering in it. AB permit fees has just been renumbered. AC is a reserved appendix. Where did it pop? The manufactured home appendix is just renumbered by appearance. I'm scrolling through it and I don't see any new technical language. They do update some of the reference standards at the end of that. And then tiny houses has some new language, or no, not new language. It's just renumbered, sorry. BC is a new appendix. And all of the language contained in this appendix is new. BD, home daycare occupancy, is just a renumbering. DBE, radon control methods. We identified this one when we were wrapping up the existing amendments report that it needs a little bit more discussion moving through. And let me scroll through real fast. There's the giant table of all the counties across the nation. There's some amendments in here, and I have those included here. We got the subfloor preparation change. Soil gas retarder has a small change. I believe those are the only two sections showing any change in that appendix. BF patio covers. Appears to be just renumbering. BG sound transmission. Updates a couple standards, but beyond that, there's no technical language change. BH automatic vehicular gates is renumbered, has some standard updates. BI light straw clay construction has a little bit of a change for flood hazard areas. Just pointing to Chapter 3 for requirements for flood hazard areas. Looks like it's a clarifying change. And then across the rest of that appendix, I see no technical language changes. There's an update to the reference standard. BJ straw bale construction has another clarifying pointer to flood hazard areas requirements in Chapter 3. There's a couple definition changes in this one. There's a couple changes across this straw bale construction appendix, but they're not very large, and at just a super high level look at this, they look fairly editorial. So I guess question to the group, do we want to bring back all the significant changes to this report? I don't think it's a huge lift for me to do that here before our next meeting.
I guess if it would help the committee just make it very clear what our recommendation is, you know, if for like especially the new appendice and all the appendices we don't adopt, we're recommending to not make any changes there and to not adopt new appendices. Unless the tag feels differently.
I don't hear anybody disagreeing with that one. So I think it would be best then, I guess, to pause review of this report for me to add content into the appendices we don't adopt sections and just show all that concisely. As far as what I can advertise for you guys to anticipate, anything that is just a renumbered appendix, I'm going to leave those alone and then just focus in on actual technical language changes to bring back. I guess just to recap some of what I got going in here. Appendix NB, solar ready provisions, detached 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses. There's no technical language changes within this one. It's just been moved. And I'll come back with more content for the rest of these appendices. And that's the end of the report for now.
Was there any other work groups or anything for the significant changes that we're waiting to come back?
For significant changes, I don't think we have, so let me just review what I have going on here.
I think on Tuesday we might have discussed if Angela was going to look at the fire separation distance and townhouse figures.
Yes, I do have that in here. So, I mean, I've got a slew of things that we are still wrapping up, and I need to make sure I've got all the communications out on those. So, just a recap from our 729 meeting, I'm going to try to go over these. We have the definitions in the current language referencing Chapter 11 needs some additional cleanup. We didn't have an official motion on that, but it sounds like the tag is okay with leaving references to Chapter 11 and using the WAC 5151003 to make that pointer. We have some stuff for me to do. I've got 301.2.2.10 to make sure that the significant changes report and the existing amendment report align on that section. I have a note here on 302.2.6. There used to be an amendment in this section, and there's a request to go back and make sure that that amendment is deliberately removed from the code, not a omission in the 2021 draft work. I have a pointer on 302.2.2 looking to clarify what the fire exposure from both sides is on this one. I need to go back and check in on this one a little bit and send to Josh Mergens for a I have a fix needed in 325.1.1 to correlate the significant changes and existing amendment report to that section. I have section 303. We are looking to get some stuff out to Annie on that one. And Annie, I'm trying to get that to you after this meeting today. but the whole section needs a look. And Annie was the one who raised her hand for that one. The last one for our 729 meeting, we got 307.1/327.1. Just to look at which UPC sections are applicable to those and make sure that the reference is good. And that's some staff work to do. We have the EV proposal, which we already have talked about. It's just on my notes of stuff to do. I have radon testing as an additional look needed. I need to research the BIAW emergency rule request in 2021 for that one. Micah did send me a follow-up email talking a little bit about that one, but I haven't had a chance to bring that back to this group. We covered the sleeping loft stuff today. We covered I'm supposed to add the seismic map to section 301 for the appropriate section in the significant changes report. And beyond that one, I think the only work group stuff that we don't have a specific group, but we have stuff that Annie was going to work on 303 to bring back. And so that's my list of outstanding things for these reports at the moment.
My suggestion would be that we end up tabling or postponing this report to a future meeting. We reserve, because I don't think we've been sending out notices to proponents every meeting that the proposals are on the agenda and it could come up. And since I know there will be a few tag members not attending the next Tuesday meeting, I would suggest we dedicate the 14th for having an initial hearing on every single proposal. If we had the whole meeting dedicated to that, I think it would be about 8 minutes to talk about each one and just focus on if there's any issues or concerns, giving feedback to the proponent on what changes they need to do. And then the 19th, we can finalize the existing amendments report and tag proposals related to that. And then the 21st, bring back the significant changes report and all the tag proposals for that. Give proponents a week to work on their code change proposals, and then use the 26th and the 28th to finalize all the proposals. And then if you could send out an email this week reminding everybody who volunteered for what item, and then we send that out to everybody so everybody knows the deadline for what needs to be done for which date.
Gotcha. And so you're suggesting the 12th meeting we not have to give time to work on all this stuff?
Yeah, because I think with having definitely two people not there, that'll be hard to get quorum anyways.
Yes. And then bring the 14th dedicated to an initial reading, the 19th to bring back these reports with the amendments that I'm going to make, and also some of the additional tag work that we've been talking about for the work groups there.
Yeah, 19th would be existing amendments report, 21st significant changes report.
And then beyond that is wrapping up the rest of the proposals, the public and tag.
I think because some of the tag proposals are related to the reports,
Yes.
so we could take care of those on those respective day. And then have 2 meetings dedicated for final review of all the external petitions. And people will need to get in their stuff probably like 48 hours in advance of the meeting, so staff can post it 24 hours in advance.
Yes. I'm not opposed to that proposition.
That's my suggestion. Happy to hear feedback if people disagree.
Any comments on that?
Seems workable, although we'll probably fall behind.
And Ron, with that, are you saying that you think that we would fall behind with getting the work done as proposed, or that we wouldn't be giving ourselves enough time if we don't continue on the 12th and try to finish everything by the end of this month?
Well, I think we need to take and restrain ourselves from just kibitzing and discussing some of these things. I think we overtalk them and not sticking to the task at hand, and let's put our points out and go for it. I know there's a lot of times I'd like to just speak up, but if I just listen for a minute, somebody else will address that issue, and you don't need an amen or me too. So we tend to beat the heck out of the first things in the morning, and then we kind of want to speed up a little bit as the day goes on. So that's just my observation. I think Patrick's proposal is a good one, and if we just discipline ourselves, I think we can get through it.
I agree. So
I didn't do that. I don't know why I did that, but I was gonna make a motion to postpone this until the 21st meeting.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, do we have any further discussion on tabling this report? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, so this report is being tabled until the 21st meeting. Okay. All right, so for this, do we have other business that needs discussed?
I would say that
Oh,
we've got the agenda item number 5.
yeah, sorry.
I
missed
didn't
that.
anticipate necessarily getting through the significant change report, so proponents weren't notified for this meeting.
Mhm.
Do we want to take a look at any of those or table those until we're wrapped up with our significant changes and existing amendments and kind of follow the proposal that we've got outlined at the moment?
Well, what are we gonna have on the agenda for next Tuesday's meeting, the 12th?
I believe that the suggestion was that we don't have a meeting for the 12th,
Oh, okay,
bring back the on the 14th
Yeah.
to do an
Okay.
initial reading of all the proposals.
Yep.
Where we can notify the proponents, now and get them plenty of time to plan for that. And then come back on the 19th for existing amendments, the 21st for the significant changes.
Mhm.
And then beyond that, we're wrapping up the proposal recommendations.
Yeah, okay, Quinn?
Yeah, so since we're not meeting on Tuesday and both Angela and I are off gone on Thursday,
Mhm.
I personally have one proposal in, so I won't be around to talk about it on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, I
Uh,
have 3 proposals in,
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
or 4.
I don't know how you guys want to do that. Skip those until we get back, or what? Or I could talk about mine today, but we're kind of running short on time as well.
I'm also open to an additional meeting that falls outside of the Tuesday, Thursday cadence. If we wanted to, I can't offer up the 15th. We're gonna have a council meeting then, but if we wanted to do potentially the 13th instead of the 14th, we can work that. But we have the work group of economic impact beginning to meet in the afternoons there. So we could have a first reading of proposals on the 13th, if that's acceptable to the group.
So what day was that, Dustin?
Wednesday, the 13th next week. And that'd be a 9 till noon block. And I'm not sure we would need all of that just to have a first reading.
And that would be in place of the 14th meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm free then. Is everybody else?
Same here. I'll be able to make the Wednesday one.
Okay.
Looks like Jen, Marco, Annie. Patrick, are you available next Wednesday?
Yes.
Patrick, okay.
Ron will be there.
All right, Ken,
I think I saw Ken do a thumbs up.
Yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
I'm good. And as one of the proponents, that would work better too.
okay. Okay, so it looks like people should be able to do that. Okay, so yeah,
I can also save us some time. I can withdraw the BIW EV charging proposal, and I believe the tag decided to adopt the 2024 model code language on the vapor retarder section, so I could withdraw that one as well.
get that efficiency.
Okay. I will get those updated. So I'm gonna mark the BIW EV and vapor retarder proposals as withdrawn. And then on the 13th, we'll get a notice out to the general public. We'll send out specific notice to the proponents of the proposals that this is just intended to be a first reading. And then we will wrap up the reports and get down to the business on after the 21st for deliberation on the proposals. All righty. Could we entertain, or I guess Mariko, go ahead.
I just I still don't have access to the last proposal on the list. That link still says it's access denied.
Okay, I will make sure we get all that here today.
Great. And just my name is actually pronounced Mariko.
Okay, apologies.
For everyone's no, everyone's been getting it wrong. So I just thought I'd probably throw that out though. So it's Mariko, like Ma. Thanks.
Thank you for telling us.
Yes, thank you.
If that's all, I can make a motion to postpone this till the 13th meeting.
So basically a motion to adjourn.
So
Is that okay? Or do we have a second for carryover?
Second.
Okay, is there any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right. Thank you again for your time, and we will see everyone next Wednesday.
all right, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Dustin, can you also send out a email refreshing everybody on who volunteered for what?
Assignments.
Yeah, the
Yes.
assignments.
And I'll send that out to the group so everybody can see what everybody's working on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.